Have you ever thought about retiring to another country? You probably sit in your cubicle at work searching things like the best countries to retire or retirement real estate outside the United States. Well, you're not alone. A lot of American retirees do pull that off and put the US in their rearview mirror for good, but not all of them. Some come back. Studies indicate that a relatively small portion, roughly 8% of expats, return home after just 2 years in a foreign country. Today we're looking at the 10 most popular countries that Americans retire to and what percentage of them come back. And do me a favor, for a future video, in the comment section, let me know what country you're thinking about retiring to if it's outside the US. Let's take a look. Number 10, Mexico. Mexico, where retirement fantasies go to eat tacos and argue over immigration. Americans have been going down to Mexico for retirement for, I want to say centuries, but 50 years is about how long there's been a good flood of Americans heading down to Mexico. Nice beaches, warmer weather, affordability, wonderful people when they don't have machine guns and they're angry. There's quite a few large expat communities in Mexico. Puerto Vallarta, Riviera Maya, which has Playa del Carmen and Tulum, Mexico City, of course. Plenty of places to land if you're an American looking for affordability and warmer weather outside the United States. There's a lot of reasons to live in Mexico in retirement, but there's even more reasons not to. People leave because nothing is ever just one form. It's 6 forms, 2 copies, a signature from a guy who's on lunch until Thursday, and a line that moves slower than a Walmart scooter. Add in safety anxiety fueled by headlines, and suddenly Arizona starts looking more comforting. That's the big one, safety. Mexico's always had a problem with cartels and gangs. This chases Americans back across the border every time there's something horrible that hits the press. And it is a real fear. It's not like one of these made up things. It's not happening everywhere in the country, but it is a legit fear people have. It's a healthy fear. Keeps you on your toes. Every time you think they're getting better when it comes to the cartels and different kinds of violence, something happens and just tosses the whole theory that it's getting better on its head. Myself, I don't think I'd ever retire in Mexico. There are some nice areas that I do not mind vacationing at, but to live there full time, I wouldn't do it. But of the expats that do move there, 5.1% will move back within the first 2 years. Number 9, Portugal. Portugal, in my opinion, is one of the greatest places you could retire to outside of the US. There are a lot of reasons to move there. Portugal's supposed to be cheap Europe with wine. Then everybody showed up, rents exploded, healthcare lines got longer, and tax rules changed mid-sentence. That being said, their healthcare is still better than the United States, rents are still lower, and the cost of living usually hovers somewhere around 30% less than the United States. I was lucky enough to talk to a couple from Lisbon while I was on a cruise a few years ago, and since I do this, I always ask people questions about their country or about their state when I find out they're from someplace like Portugal or, I don't know, Bermuda. And they said they love Americans. Americans usually come there when they're retired and they assimilate very well. They had other words for it, but that's what I took it as. They assimilate very well. They did have a problem with Australians moving there. They said they're usually a little bit rude and pushy. And the wife said that Portugal, they don't do pushy. In 2025, it's estimated that there was about 20,000 Americans living in Portugal, many of them in Porto, Lisbon, or the Algarve region. So why do they live there? Affordable living, warm climate, and favorable, though recently tightening, visa programs. Besides retirees, they got a whole lot of digital nomads living there right now. As the pandemic lightened up, they had quite a jump in American citizens moving to Portugal. It went up somewhere between 36 and 45%. All in all, Portugal's a really great place to live. It's just some people are leaving because it is getting more expensive than it once was, which happens everywhere. Of course, that leads to about 5.5% of expats coming back to the US within 2 years. Number 8, Panama. It's no secret I used to live in Panama and I loved almost every single day. I could have done without the heat, but that's kind of the charm. I think the heat was a lot more tolerable when, I only had like 3% body fat on me. The military will do that to you. But Panama sells itself as an easy mode retirement. Dollarized economy, discounts everywhere, but in reality, retirees leave because it feels like living inside a mall attached to a traffic purgatory. Outside the city, things stop working. Inside the city, things work, but you'll have to deal with a whole lot of crowds. In 2025, there was over 80,000 American citizens living in Panama. It's a popular destination for American expats due to its use of the the US dollar, a lower cost of living, and a favorable retirement visa program. They've also got a significant number of growing communities in and outside all the major Panamanian cities like Panama City and Cologne. I lived in Cologne. Panama cities are weird. They have these really nice gated communities where a lot of expats will live, but right outside the gated community, you get into some ghetto areas pretty quick. But expats often leave Panama due to rising costs of living. I mean, again, it's been very affordable, but in recent years, it's been climbing pretty quick. The intense heat and humidity kind of drive people out too, and along with slow bureaucracy, they have this mañana culture, which is, it can always be done tomorrow. A lot of other ones leave because they have a hard time adapting to the slower, more laid-back lifestyle. 5.7% of American expats that move to Panama will move back within 2 years. Number 7, Costa Rica. Costa Rica always seems to be at the top of everyone's list when it comes to moving out of the United States and retiring or becoming a digital nomad. There's a lot of reasons to move to Costa Rica. It promises peace, nature, and the good life. It's also one of the most stable governments in Central America, so that always helps. Because nobody wants to have 3 pina coladas in them and find out the country just went into civil war while you're laying on the beach. That really kills your vibe, I'm telling you. Like so many places around the world, things have gotten more expensive. People moved to Costa Rica because it was very affordable, which it still is, but not as affordable as it was 5 years ago. So what you're getting is higher prices, lower service, and roads that feel personally offended by your suspension. Americans leave after realizing Pura Vida means eventually, and eventually might mean today, tomorrow, or the next fiscal year. 5.7% of all expats heading to Costa Rica will head back home within 2 years. Number 6, Thailand. Thailand is incredible for about a year. The food is unreal, the people are friendly, and the daily costs are so low it makes your old US credit card statement feel like prank mail. For a while, it feels like you cracked the retirement cheat code. The weather is warm, the rent is cheap, and suddenly every guy named Gary is walking around like he's starring in a very optimistic midlife reboot. Then reality starts tapping you on the shoulder. The distance kicks in hard. Birthdays become blurry FaceTime rectangles. Emergencies feel less like problems and more like international puzzles with terrible time zones. Visa rules change with the mood of the passing clouds, and you find yourself Googling phrases like border run and am I accidentally legal right now? Eventually, even the guys that came for the culture start to realize that being 8,000 miles from everyone they love is a weird trade-off. The novelty fades. The beach is still there, sure, but so is the feeling that you've turned retirement into a long-distance relationship with your own life. At some point, retirees decide that cheap beer, flattering attention, and eternal summers aren't quite the flex they thought it was, especially when the price is missing Christmas, grandkids, and everyone who actually knew you before you bought linen pants. 5.9% of all American expats will head back to the USA within 2 years. Number 5, Ecuador. Ecuador is like catnip for anyone who gets a little too excited saying low cost of living out loud. The numbers look incredible. Rent feels like a typo. Fresh fruit always costs less than a bottle of water. Ocean views that would require a second job and a trust fund back home. On paper, Ecuador looks like it's personally trying to save you from inflation. And for a while, it does. Sometime about a year in, you start noticing life's got a few asterisks. The power goes out. Not in a dramatic way, stormy way. Just casually. In the middle of a Zoom call normally, or the middle of cooking, middle of night, when your fans shut off and the silence feels aggressive. The internet's about as reliable as a slot machine for building wealth, and public services are more of a urban legend than anything else. You'll learn which cafes have generators, the way you learn what bars have good happy hours back home. Petty crime creeps in like background noise, nothing movie-worthy, just enough to keep your head on a swivel forever. Phones disappear, locks get upgraded, you develop an instinctive mistrust of motorcycles with 2 people on them. It's not terrifying and it's not terribly dangerous, it's just exhausting. Then of course you have the political curveballs, protests, emergency decrees, sudden rule changes delivered with the confidence of people who are absolutely not asking your opinion. Stability here exists, it's just seasonal, sort of like avocados. Eventually the charm wears thin, beaches are still beautiful, the prices are still low, but the mental math gets heavier. You realize you miss boring things, predictable things like fluorescent lights, decent internet. Ecuador doesn't lose Americans because it's bad. It loses them because cheap living hits different when certainty keeps going offline. 6.5% of American expats head back within 2 years. Number 4, Spain. Spain is beautiful in the way that postcards wish they were. Sunlight bouncing off of stone buildings, plazas that actually get used, streets designed for humans instead of pickup trucks. You can walk everywhere, eat better than you deserve, and convince yourself you finally escaped the tyranny of drive-ins and lawn maintenance. For a while it feels elegant. You start saying things like, "We'll just stroll over," and actually mean that. Then the tourist feeling wears off. You're not visiting anymore, but you're also not a local. You're just a guy with a utility bill written in a language that uses 10 extra words to say late fee. Every errand feels like a cultural exchange program. You don't so much pay taxes as you participate in them. The bureaucracy is where the romance really goes to die. Offices close randomly, reopen later, then send you to a different office that looks identical but somehow does something completely different. Regional rules make no sense, and no two regions agree on anything except that you're missing one form. Always one form. It's always there. Just one form. The same form you swear you already brought. And learning Spanish well enough to argue with officials becomes a second full-time retirement job. Casual Spanish won't cut it. You need advanced, emotionally charged Spanish. The kind used to defend yourself against a stamp, a clipboard, and a person who has absolutely all day to wait you out. Eventually, a lot of Americans realize they didn't retire to Europe to feel confused, mildly scolded, or permanently underprepared. They want a cultural change, not homework. So they head back. 6.6% to be exact will head back to the United States after moving to Spain within 2 years. Number 3, Colombia. Colombia pulls retirees in with perfect weather and prices that make your old HOA feel like organized crime. The cities are lively, the food is solid, and the mountains somehow stay green year-round, like they're in a tropical climate that hasn't been invaded by developers yet. On paper, it looks ideal. You tell your friends you've found balance. You say things like, "The climate agrees with me now," which is retiree code for optimism. But then comes the constant low-level anxiety. No panic, no fear, just a permanent hum in the background. Even in safe neighborhoods, your brain never fully clocks out. You're always scanning, adjusting, doing mental math about where your phone is and who's behind you. Healthcare can be excellent, which is reassuring, but navigating it feels like opening up a puzzle box while someone politely watches you struggle. The doctors are great, the system is not intuitive. You spend a lot of time wondering if you're in the right building, the right line, or the right decade. Everything here works eventually, but never in the order you expect. After a couple years of watching your surroundings like a hawk and treating every outing like a low-stakes reconnaissance mission, something strange happens. Suburbia starts whispering sweet nothings, quiet streets, boring grocery stores, a place where the biggest threat is a guy who mows his lawn too early, and suddenly the idea of uneventful doesn't sound like a failure. It sounds like a rest, and that's why a lot of Americans will head back. 6.9% of all expats to Colombia head back within 2 years. Number 2, Malaysia. Malaysia is fantastic right up until the fine print starts doing parkour. At first, it feels like you found retirement nirvana. Modern apartments with air conditioning that could refrigerate a supermarket, malls the size of small states, you can grab food at 2 a.m. for less than the tip costs at IHOP back home. Everything works. Trains show up, elevators behave. The biggest daily challenge is deciding between noodles or more noodles. Then the government wakes up one morning and decides your retirement plan needs a software update. Visa programs get restructured, which is a polite way of saying we changed our minds. Income requirements jump like rent in Austin. Minimum deposits suddenly resemble a down payment for a house you didn't want. And that's when retirees realize that their entire future is hanging on policy vibes and press releases. One announcement, one minister with a spreadsheet and a long-term stability turns into 6-month countdown clock. Nothing like realizing your sense of home depends on whether someone in an office thinks foreigners are trending up or trending down this quarter. So Americans start quietly packing it up, not because Malaysia stopped being comfortable, cheap, and convenient, but because malls and air conditioning don't mean much when your right to stay in a country feels temporary. 7.2% of American expats will head back home from Malaysia within 2 years. All right, before we get to number 1, if you have not subscribed to this channel, we'd really appreciate it if you did. We also have a Facebook channel. We'd love you to go over and follow there. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Italy. Gorgeous food, stunning scenery, and paperwork that feels actively hostile. Americans leave because doing anything official requires patience, persistence, and a tolerance of mild despair. Living in Italy is magical. Trying to exist legally in Italy is a full contact sport. Now, this is strange considering they have several small towns that are actively trying to get people to move there. Like, the population is declining in a big way, and they'll take anyone at this point. Yet the country, the actual national government, they make it as hard as they possibly can sometimes. Americans don't move back because Italy sucks. They move back because the novelty wears off and the government makes it hard to live there. 7.5% of American expats will come back within 2 years. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, be nice to each other.